Hello and welcome to Jesus Mission and Ministry, Week 3, Foot Washing. I'm doing something a little different now. I hear you want shorter videos, not a big long explanation, so we aim to please. We have two big concepts this week: preferential option for the poor and servant leadership. And you've studied those before. You'll see in your connections section how the scripture we're reading for this week connects to things you learned in your morality class, in your church class. So, trying to wrap this all up now, by the time we get to Jesus, that's why we believe what we believe. And we got two good ones. The first one is the parable of the Good Samaritan, which most of us have heard. We know what the Good Samaritan is: the foreigner who goes out of his way to help somebody because they're in need. But it's the answer to the question, who is my neighbor? That is, a scholar comes up to Jesus, what do we have to do? Well, we all know, love God with your whole heart and love your neighbor as yourself. But who is our neighbor? Who am I bound to love? And Jesus answers with this parable. Who is my neighbor? The one who needs my help. That's the one who's my neighbor, that I'm bound to help, that I have to love. The person that I encounter that needs my help. That's why we have the preferential option for the poor. God cares for everyone. Starts with the poor, though. The poorest of the poor. Those who are most in need. Or as Pope Francis will also say, those on the margins. We go out there and we find them and we help them first. So this preferential option for the poor, keep it in mind when you read the parable of the Good Samaritan. And then we have the foot washing. So this is the picture that's on the front of this course at the top, of course. This is foot washing scene, and Martin describes the painting that I use. But it's really lovely, subversive action to do. Jesus, on the night before he dies, he's been teaching them, they're not catching on. So he does this action that maybe has more force. He takes off his outer garment, puts a towel around him, and does the lowliest job, washes everybody's feet. And of course, Peter objects because, oh, no, you'll never wash my feet. You see, Jesus is his master, and he's an important disciple of this important master. And we need to keep you here so that I'm somebody too. If you're just a servant, well, what does that make me? And Jesus will have none of that. He says, yes, you call me Master and Lord. That's right, that's what I am. But if I'm washing your feet, then you need to be washing one another's feet. There's none of this dynamics of power and hierarchy. That a leader in this community is the one who serves everyone else. He said it in other places as well that you're not going to read, but maybe you know these stories. The mother of James and John comes up to Jesus, cheeky, and she says, promise me this, Master, that these two sons of mine, James and John, when you come into your kingdom, you sit one on your left and one on your right. And Jesus is taken aback. He says, 'tis not mine to give that. That's the Father. But then he calls the disciples together because they're outraged at this. And he says, the great ones, their leaders lord it over people. It can't be that way with you. The greatest among you is the one who serves the others. So this idea of servant leadership, it needs to mark the church. it needs to mark ascension as well. It changes that whole dynamic. We're used to a power dynamic among leaders. No. So you'll also see in your study guide a Write for Yourself section. There was a little bit of confusion about that. The idea of write for yourself is, I'm hoping that you get a lot of insights while you're doing these readings. Just jot them down someplace along with the insights that you get the week before and the week after. And you don't get to share that online. The idea is, when we get to the end of the semester, go back and look at those and say, oh, now I see the through line, or, oh, there's still some things that didn't quite come together, and we can talk about that when we have our virtual retreat at the end. So Write for Yourself is a way to collect your thoughts so that they don't just slip away, that these insights can be gathered later. But then the discussion question, it's a good one. What if we lived by this? So I will see you now in the discussion questions. God bless.